All right, folks, it is November 15th, 2025. I have a little bit of afternoon coffee in my cup. The market is not doing what we want it to do, but that's okay. We're going to talk about what's taking place in the market, the ETF inflows that we saw start up this week, what's about to happen with billions of XRP getting parked in ETFs, DeFi applications, and then crazy Joe Blow holders like myself and some of you that are just going to bury some XRP in the backyard. And so this is, continuation of the XRP bull run, no doubt about it. The rest of the crypto space is struggling with the price action, struggling with lack of institutional adoption. For some of these projects, they don't have any ETFs going live. They don't have any digital asset treasury companies that are putting it on the balance sheet. And they don't have real institutional adoption. But when it comes to XRP and the company Ripple, they've really set the standard and are leading the way. As I said, the Ripple Swell Conference was not a crypto conference. It was a banker conference. And we got to see it firsthand. I got to talk to David Schwartz, ask him directly about the XRP ledger being ready for institutional adoption. He confirmed that it is. And I just got done actually recording an update that's going to drop first thing tomorrow morning, going back to the basics, comparing the XRP ledger consensus mechanism versus proof of work and proof of stake. This most recent conversation where David's actually chimed in on a couple threads explaining how XRP is kind of a tax-free ledger. And so tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, you're going to see a video coming on my YouTube channel titled XRP Tax-Free Ledger. And we're going to break that down. It'll be a nice basic explanation and a great video for you to share for new people that are still learning about the XRP ledger, but I also think that it will serve as a great refresher for people that have been in the community for quite some time. Today in our Discord weekly call, I went through reviewing Axelar, Algorand, Ondo, and Sui. This is on top of a list of coins here that we've already taken a look at, including Cardano, Litecoin, Quant, Chainlink, Flare, and even Zcash. And what I'm in the process of doing right now with the Discord group is running through all of these coins that even ones that I don't hold, but folks are requesting for me to review, take a look at. And I'm just going through and we check off the boxes. Does it have ETFs? Do they have DATs, digital asset treasury companies putting it on their balance sheet? Do we have real institutional adoption? What are the tokenomics looking like? And then I'm giving a low and a high side target. So we have a range and a window of opportunity. And I'll tell you, looking back through this, looking at Axelar, where it sits right now at about like 14 or 15 cents, and the potential for that one to run back up towards $1. Really excited about some of the opportunities that are in front of us outside of XRP. We focus so much of our content. I'm 90% plus invested in XRP when it comes to my crypto portfolio. But make no mistake about it, there's absolutely a bunch of money to be made on some of these other coins with real utility, with institutional adoption. There's a couple ETFs for Axelar, no digital asset treasury companies, but we're looking for real institutional adoption, real institutional inflows, because retail money only goes so far. And we don't want to be, as we are basically in the middle of a covered up and papered over recession, we don't want to be reliant upon retail money to pump our bags. We want to be front running the institutions, the utility, and the post era, post regulatory environment where we finally have regulation set, the rules of the road set. And on a lot of these projects that I'm reviewing, in the comments I put, we'll have to follow up on institutional adoption. And by next year, there will be no more excuses. Either your project is getting institutional adoption or it's not. You can't use the excuse of, lack of regulations. We don't have any ETFs yet because the SEC's stalling us up or working against us. That's not the case anymore. Zach, are you done with XLM? No, still number 2. So earlier, Oscar Ramos was telling us bear market. Now Zach says bull run. I don't listen to any of these guys. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Nothing against that guy or the next guy or whoever the guy is or gal that you're listening to. I like to come back to, our own analysis, our own data, that we're observing, and there's just no signs of a bear market for XRP. Now, it's interesting. You can say that even though XRP has dumped whatever the percentage loss is from $3.66 in July back down here to 220. How could I be sitting here with a smile on my face saying that we're still in a bull run? Well, just look at the fundamentals, look at the catalysts that are still lined up. That's all still going to take place. The timing we were off on, we were wrong on the timing. If you want to get upset with me, you want to smack the thumbs down, that's fine. If that helps you vent your frustration, please go ahead and smack the thumbs down and leave a comment down below while you're at it and tell us how upset you are. But we're going to look back historically at this buying opportunity because we've seen it on Bitcoin. We've even seen it on Ethereum. You're going to see it on Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR and XRP, which is the ETF sell the news event. Turns out to be one of the best buying opportunities took place for Bitcoin. You could have bought Bitcoin at 38 to 40,000, rode that sucker up to 126,000 last month. Ethereum, I forget what it dipped to on the ETF sell the news, but one of the best buying opportunities. Ethereum sold off 40%. And I'll show you here on the XRP chart. We just went back down this morning, and so we're down about 14% from our pre-ETF top, where we were at before the ETF went live. And a lot of folks have been asking me, this is a great question, are we going to see a sell-off on every new ETF that comes out for XRP? And the answer is no. No, I don't believe so. And we're also waiting the SEC, with a couple strokes of the pen, could sign off on all of the rest of the ETFs and bring them all live at once. This is something that's different between the XRP ETF launch party and what took place for Bitcoin and Ethereum. For Bitcoin, 11 ETFs went live day one. For Ethereum, 9 ETFs went live day one. And so despite the fact that we only had one ETF going live, we see 245 million of inflows into that ETF, despite the trading volume day one was only 58 million. Day two was about 26 million. So only about, 80 million of trading volume in the first 2 days, but 245 million of inflows. And that's what I want folks to pay attention to. And I'm going to show you the wallet transactions and the movement on some XRP moving from Ripple wallets to Coinbase wallets. Some folks suspecting that this could have been that net inflow of about 100 million XRP. We saw a transaction come across the ledger on the 13th for 96 million XRP from a Ripple wallet to a Coinbase wallet. And so I'm going to show you in this update here what to watch out for in regards to XRP ledger transactions and trying to trace and track where the XRP is coming from to fill these ETFs. And this is where this gets interesting because a real supply shock could be created if Ripple decides to, close off the faucet and not let that much XRP go out. Ripple has full clarity to sell XRP to exchanges, and programmatic sales were deemed to not be a securities transaction by the judge. So they have full clarity to sell off to Coinbase, who then is administering and custodying a lot of the Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptos for these ETFs. So we're going to be watching this closely. I'm going to show you what to look out for in this video. But once again, if you want to get the coin reviews that we did in the Discord weekly call, I have a whole spreadsheet that I've made for the community. And we've only gone through about 10 cryptos outside of XLM and HBAR. I put out public deep dives on XLM, HBAR, DAG, and a few others. But we're going to be compiling all those coin reviews. And on top of that, we bring a lot of value to the Discord community. So for those of you guys that have been asking, you sign up through Patreon to get access to the Discord community. And that's how you get in there. But folks, I want to get right on into it. I appreciate you for stopping by. Cheers, everybody. I'm drinking coffee. I don't know. It might be 5 o'clock somewhere for you. And I appreciate you for taking time on your Saturday to join us here. Here we go. I tell you what, there's something about drinking that coffee out of the XRP mug. It just hits a little bit different. Okay, let's roll. If you guys haven't already, please make sure you like this video, share it out far and wide. Here we go. What does this mean? It means buy. You're looking at extreme fear on the fear and greed index down at 10. That's when you make your move. Water's above crypto. He gets it. Perhaps some of you remember how at every one of these drops, your X feed looked exactly like it does now. Your X feed looks like it. The comments on my YouTube videos are all the same. At these points where we're, seemingly bottoming out, it's the end. It's time to get out of crypto. Crypto's failed us. XRP sucks. Right before we turn back up, here's the Bitcoin chart, and we're pulling back to this 1618 fib. We did it back here in September of 2024 before we blasted off for Bitcoin. We did it here in that's April of 2025 before we blasted off again up here to 126,000. We're doing it again back down here to 95,000 before we get ready to move back to the upside, and it's the same thing every time. And I just have deja vu from last year in October rolling into November. It was so bearish, so negative. And even as XRP started to pump in November of last year, a lot of people were still in disbelief, right? And so we're in the same exact spot, and I want to share, looks like we could be filling a CME gap. I'll show you that here on the chart in 1 second. But we did come back, and we finally reached this fib level at 94.1, according to Terra Precision Trade 3 on X. So far, it's looking like it could need that other fib level at 93.7. That's 93,700 before it moves onto the new trend, which would be a wave 3 to the upside. I think that Bitcoin can only go to 93.9, or sorry, only got to 93.9. I'm watching for resistance at 96.6, 97.1. As long as it's under these levels, let's expect that touch on the 618. That's down at 93,700 for the last subwave 55C of your doing Elliott wave technical analysis right here. The RSI is still showing a bullish divergence, which is signaling that the reversal is forming. This last wave down needs to be quick and should be see a very strong bounce from that level at 93,700 and come back above and hold the 99,700 support. So not waiting around for Bitcoin to go to a new all-time high, but we want to see Bitcoin bounce off of this low, have a correction and stability so that we can get our alt season, so that we can be on firm ground, so that the crypto space isn't scared to death, and so that we can see XRP and some of our other altcoins make that move. But as I record this update, here we are at the CME. And what we're looking at back here on April 22nd, is a CME gap that never got filled back down here at about 92,000. Now, you'll see this little purple chart here on the chart here. This little purple box. This was a CME gap that we had back on October 24th. So just last month. And this is why I had the purple box here. As I said, guys, we're going to be pulling back down here right at the start of November. That was the end of October, I should say, into the start of November. We're going to go fill this. And we did. We did go fill this CME gap here at 110,000. Well, now, I didn't zoom out far enough to go see that we actually had a CME gap down here at 92,000 for Bitcoin. So I'm looking for us to actually fill this gap. I know that we're just showing you Terra Precision Trades chart, and she had a fib level of support at 93,700. Well, that's about where we went down to on our Bitcoin chart here. This is Qcoin, so you might have seen something different on the exchange that you're trading on. But we went down to about 94,000 here on Qcoin. And you should be watching the chart of the exchange that you're trading on, most likely, whether you're actually trading or you're just looking to, make your acquisitions, buy and sell, dollar cost average on Coinbase or Binance, whatever that exchange is. That's the chart that you should be watching. I still have the Qcoin chart pulled up from back when I used to trade on Qcoin. And so I actually need to update that and start using the Binance. But once again, the CME gap sitting there at 92,000, a fib level sitting at 93,700. So we'll be watching to see if that does eventually get filled here. But we're at 95,500 as I record this update right now. For XRP, I'm going to slide on down to my Coinbase XRP chart, and we're going to zoom in here. And you're going to see that we are, back testing. Went back down here to about $2.21. And so from our pre-ETF top up here at 258, we have officially pulled back 14%. Remember, Bitcoin pulled back 20%, Ethereum pulled back 40% after their ETFs launched. So this 14% pullback for XRP was expected. If you weren't expecting a sell-off after the ETF went live, you're getting bad information. You're listening to the wrong influencer. And I'm not saying I'm the only guy that has this. There's a few other people that warned about this. But unfortunately, it's the hype, it's the clickbait, it's the misleading people that get the most attention and mislead the most amount of people into thinking that ETFs were going to be bullish day one. No. Have I been saying ETFs are going to be bullish? Have I been saying that ETFs alone take us to 10 to 20 bucks over the next 12 months? Yes, but that is the key part, over the next 12 months. Could happen sooner, could happen in a month, right? Could happen in the first part of 2026, but definitely not going to be day one that the ETFs go live. Definitely not going to be the first week that the ETFs went live. And so if you were misled, ask yourself who was giving you that bad information and check that. Just check that and understand that going forward, where you're getting your information from. Because if somebody was telling you that we were pumping day one that the ETFs went live, they didn't know what they were talking about. Okay. And so 14% pullback to be expected, catching support here at the 220 level. And that's where we have this fib retracement going down to the full retracement back down to 219. Once again, I pulled this fib from back here when we went down to 219 on October 17th. And then we went back up to 269 on October 27th. And so I'm using that to draw my fib and to see where we're going to be trading at within this range. We broke through on the first day of Ripple swell going back down to 207. And if we did go down to 207, then that would be a full 20% drop after the ETF went live for XRP. So I would look for that to be our final last stand level of support around $2, obviously a big psychological level, wicking down to 207 on day one as well, already establishing support there. And so we'll see if we can hold this 220 level. If we do break down, I would front run 207. And as I mentioned earlier this week, I will be a buyer adding to my XRP long if we go below 220. I'm still holding my XRP long at an average price of 228. So obviously that's in the red right now. Not worried at all about that. Okay. My liquidation level is so low because I keep extra margin on the sidelines so I don't get liquidated. And we have additional capital that's ready to deploy if we do go down below $2.20, and I'll be looking to front run 207. Okay. That's what I'm going to do. You guys can let me know in the comments down below how you're playing it. But I am still in an XRP long and not worried in the slightest because we understand the fundamentals, we understand regulations, and the catalysts lined up that take us to double-digit XRP. Mohammed El Arian, very respected economist, commenting on the second highest daily outflow from the Bitcoin ETFs, which just so happens to coincide with the first XRP ETF going live. Hello. Little rotation, huh? Bitcoin fell below 95,000 for the first time in about 6 months as a bout of risk aversion sweeping across markets saw investors pull nearly 900 million from funds investing in the token. Although the base of more stable investors has been expanding, the crypto market still has a large number of momentum-driven tourist investors fueling both price and flow volatility. If you are one of those tourist investors, park it. Sit down and start to understand the fundamentals and what you've actually invested in. Let's reset your expectations, whether you thought that Bitcoin was going to 200,000, whether you listened to the ETH bag holders that told you it was going to 10,000, or whether you listened to the XRP clickbaiters that told you it was going to 1,000. And maybe you're still listening to those XRP clickbaiters that are telling you the next ISO date of November 22nd is going to move the price, and it's not. And it's very important to understand and tamper those expectations, bringing it back down and understanding that even bringing it back down to reality, the reality is that we still are going to have a significant amount of appreciation, nothing to complain about. And the difference is that you now have the ETF investors coming in. You now have, and I really need folks to understand this, whether this be family offices, hedge funds, or in this case, university endowments, which are now making huge allocations to ETFs. In this case, it came out that Harvard has its largest allocation to the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, 443 million Bitcoin investment, but it's less than 1% of their entire endowment. Ivy League endowments, going down the list here, Harvard at 57 billion, Yale, 44 billion. Princeton, 36 billion. Penn, 25 billion. Columbia, 16 billion. Cornell, 12 billion. Dartmouth, 9 billion. And Brown, 8 billion. And as this guy says, that 0.75% will become 1%, then 5%, then others will follow. That, as Rick Edelman has been saying, very respected financial advisor, 10 to 40%. And then maybe some people get crazy like we do, and they go 90%, right? These endowments, some of these family offices, some of these hedge funds, and some of these institutions, there's no way, some of these pension funds, there's no way that they're going to go download Coinbase and buy XRP in their Coinbase account for the Harvard endowment. That's not how this works. And we need to understand that although some of us are not going to invest in these ETFs, this is how these types of institutions and investment funds will get exposure to XRP and our other utility cryptos that we own. Now, when you start to realize that the traditional space is finally getting off of zero, but they're still only taking it to half of 1%, or maybe even 5%. If you have a 5% allocation on Wall Street or in family office space or in, university endowments, that would be like crazy bullish. That's like, you're very aggressive if you have a 5% allocation to crypto. Not even like just one crypto, but to crypto broadly speaking. Even just having 5%, you're bullish. You're ahead of the curve. If they could see our portfolio, 90% XRP, not including the XRP long, not including XRP meme coins. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall for when you guys go to your financial advisors and you tell them that you're looking to allocate, 25, 50%, or some of you guys 100% of an allocation towards cryptocurrency. I wish I could see the face of your financial advisor when you tell them. But for some of you guys, you're in those types of accounts, right? Where you're limited on what you can do. And the only way that you're going to be able to get exposure is through the ETFs. Guys, is the stream running fine here? What's going on? Is this just a slow Sunday? I see that we got, what does it say, 800 people in the chat? Or is it just slow on a Sunday? If you guys could do me a favor, could you like this video? Help us out by sharing it out far and wide. I don't know, maybe people are watching football or something. I don't know. But this is why we're still so certain about XRP being in a bull run, so certain about it going to double-digit prices, is because the money's now able to come in, right? And real quick, I have to plug them, and I have to let everybody know that you don't have to wait, right? You can move now, today, into iTrust Capital with your retirement accounts, right? And you can get access to the premium custody account or move over your 401k into a crypto IRA. I have them linked up down below. And just so you guys know, you no longer have to use my promo code. Those have expired. So to get the $100 funding bonus, just use my link on down below and you'll get that $100 funding bonus. No promo code required. But the reason why I added them as a sponsor is for this exact reason right here, amongst many others. But this is the number one reason, is because I wanted our community to know you don't have to wait to, for an ETF to invest in XRP. You don't have to wait for your financial advisor to tell you it's safe. You can roll over now. Now, your financial advisor might push back. That's okay, right? The other thing, too, is that you don't have to be in an ETF product where you're paying fees to invest in XRP, right? You can go to iTrust Capital. You'll pay the 1% transaction fee, and then there's no cost. It's absolutely free to be in institutional grade custody with your retirement funds. So important. And so I'm just telling you guys what I use, what I've come to love here. And the 1-2 punch for me right now is retirement accounts at iTrust Capital. And then my other big bags and other, bigger chunks of money in XRP, Caleb and Brown. It's the 1-2 punch. And it's absolutely free. Free institutional grade custody from both Obviously, they're going to charge you on transaction fee. That's it. Free institutional grade custody provided by both. I'm going to be opening up my Roth IRA and then moving that to iTrust Capital next year. And then I've currently got the most amount of XRP sitting on Caleb and Brown versus Coinbase, versus Uphold, versus any other platforms. I have my biggest bags of XRP at Caleb and Brown right now. Okay? So that's just what I'm using. And that 1-2 punch, I think, is the best service in the industry right now. But I want to draw your attention because this is where we're going to start to track and trace these ETF inflows and how much XRP is actually backing these. Now, what was interesting, and this was confusing for some people, myself included, I had to look this up. Canary Capital recorded about 58 million in trading volume for their ETF day one, but they tracked and recorded 245 million of inflows into the fund. And so I was wondering, well, why would there be more inflows than trading volume? And the reason is because they want to have enough XRP backing the ETF to meet the demand. So if you got a hot product, you're going to add about it's 3-4x what the daily volume is. You're going to back that in inflows and XRP so that you can meet that demand. And so that was over and Canary reported this. They're now holding some 108 million XRP backing this ETF. And you'll commonly see this with other ETFs too. They'll issue they'll create new units, and it's done by an authorized participant that then redeems the shares for the fund, or in this case, creates the shares for the fund. And so we saw a big transaction go across the XRP ledger for 96 million XRP on Thursday, November 13th, after the ETF went live. This is the website Whale Alert. A lot of people saw the tweet going out. And this is what I love about blockchain is that we get to watch this. Now you can see the sender address is right here and the receiver address is right here. 96 million XRP in this transaction. And so we slide on over. Who's the sender? Well, we're right here on XRP Scan, which is the XRP Explorer. And you can see that this was Ripple Wallet 50. Okay. And this wallet was actually created on December 11th, 2024 with 100 million XRP. So it's like last year in December, for whatever reason, right? Ripple funded this wallet with 100 million XRP, parked it over here. And then the receiver of this 96 million XRP was Coinbase Wallet 6. And if you actually go up to the search bar on XRP Scan, you can type in Coinbase, and you'll see it'll have Coinbase 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to I think there's 20 plus wallets. And I'm going to show you here shortly. I'm going to show you here next that they don't have a lot of XRP. I went through these today. After I got done with my Discord weekly call, I'd shared this with the Discord group, and I said, guys, this kind of looks like this is what funded this ETF, because we should note that Coinbase is the custodian and is the provider for many of these ETFs, many of the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and some of these other ETFs. Coinbase is managing that. They have the institutional side of Coinbase taking care of that. But so originally this looked to be the funding of the ETF for Canary. But upon further research, it looks like this just got sent over to another Coinbase wallet. And then from there, it got sent to a separate wallet, which is not named. And I'm going to show you that right now. So once again, we're here on XRP Scan. And so the receiver of this transaction was Coinbase Wallet 6. Well, I scroll on down and I was able to find the wallet that it went out to. See if you can see right here. I'm going to zoom in on this so that you guys can see the transaction here. You see over here on the right side, 96 million XRP right here. And it went to this address. Okay, so we're going to slide over here. And now you see this address right here has 249,000 XRP sitting in it. But it's just a random wallet. with this XRP ledger address, and it's not tied to Coinbase, Binance, or anybody. And I scroll through the transactions here, and I mean, it's just sending XRP back and forth between what looks to be a Coinbase wallet and another sub wallet. So we're tracking this. So I'm wondering if Coinbase is holding this XRP for Canary. We're going to find out. I'm going to dive into the prospectus a little bit further. But the timing of it was interesting because we knew that, the authorized participant for the Canary Fund went out and acquired about 100 million XRP. And then sure enough, we see a transaction for 96 million XRP from a Ripple wallet to Coinbase, and then from a Coinbase wallet out to another wallet. So we're going to be, this is where we're going to be watching this. And this is where I mentioned, if Ripple decides to close up the faucet and not let this XRP really get out there, well, then these ETF issuers are going to be scooping up all of the XRP on the OTC market. These are the same OTC markets where a lot of the digital asset treasury companies will probably go to get XRP. And so we get to find out how much XRP is actually sitting in the OTC market versus how much XRP is actually sitting in the retail secondary markets. And it's a lot less than I think many people believe. Some estimates say that there's only about 5 to 10 billion of true XRP float right now. And that's XRP that's on public secondary market retail exchanges that's available to buy. That doesn't include XRP that would be sitting in Binance wallets or Coinbase wallets that would be our client funds sitting there, right? That XRP is not going to be available, part of the available float, until we get to higher prices, right? And so we get to really see where this XRP supply sits at. How much XRP is sitting on exchanges? At what price are the retail holders going to be willing to relinquish or sell off that XRP? How much XRP is sitting on the OTC markets? And then how much XRP is Ripple going to distribute going forward? Because what we've seen over the past couple of years is that each month as that billion XRP gets released from the escrow to Ripple, Ripple turns around and sends 700 to 800 million of it back to escrow where it gets locked up again. And then they keep about 2 to 300 million XRP, and it's exclusively been going to their partners, or in this case, going to Coinbase or maybe some other exchanges that need to top off their wallets. We talked about this, what was this, a month or two ago with the Coinbase wallets? And there's somebody on X, I forget what their username is, but they're doing a really good job of tracking all these Coinbase wallets. And like I said, they have like 20-something wallets, and they don't have much. They don't have much. I'll show you right now. Here's Coinbase wallet number 4, right? Activated by Coinbase wallet number 2. And if you look, it only has 1,500,000 XRP. Slide on over here to Coinbase wallet number 2. They only have 1,400 XRP. Coinbase wallet number 2, activated by this wallet. How much XRP do they have? Literally nothing. I mean, many of you guys have more XRP than this wallet. Coinbase wallet 14 has 28,000 XRP. What's funny is that they actually activated this wallet through Binance. You slide over here, Coinbase wallet 14, activated by Binance wallet number 2. Just for curiosity, let's click on Binance wallet 2. It only has 66 XRP in it. They have no XRP over here in this wallet. Now, this, obviously I'm going to slide over here. Here's Binance wallet 1. How much XRP do they have in this one? 872. So this is the beautiful thing about blockchain, is that we get to track and trace all these flows of XRP and even other cryptos as well too, where we'll get to see, okay, where are they getting the Solana for these ETFs? Where are they getting the HBAR for these ETFs? And what I'm worried about is on some of these tokens that I'm looking at doing my coin reviews, is the tokenomics are not pretty. One of the 2 coins that I broke down today, I broke down 4, but 2 of them were Ondo and Sui. And I noted how I really liked Ondo for their institutional adoption. They got some good partnerships. That's great to see. I forget if there was any, let me slide on over to my spreadsheet. Coin review, Ondo. Ondo has one ETF, but no digital asset treasuries for institutional adoption. I said yes, but the problem with Ondo is that there's only 31% of the total supply is circulating right now. So over the next 5 years, between now and 2029, there's billions, 6 billion plus Ondo, 60% of the total supply comes into circulation. And so this is where I say you really need ETFs to soak up that supply, right? To have that demand, to be able to soak up all those new tokens that are going to be coming onto the market. Now, Ondo has real institutional adoption. I like what I'm seeing over there. I don't own any Ondo right now, by the way. When I look at SUI, SUI, they have 36% of the total supply is circulating right now. So that's not good. Same tokenomics, there's 10 billion total, and there's about 3.6 billion circulating. And so 60% plus comes into circulation between now and 2030. A bunch more going to the foundation and early investors, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all, right? And then the other thing that makes me not like that as far as an investment opportunity is that there's, let me double check my spreadsheet. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. There actually are 2 ETFs for SUI, and there are 2 digital asset treasury companies for SUI. So that's good, but is it going to be enough? That's what we're watching for. And for the purpose of this exercise in this coin review, I'm not including ETPs or ETNs that are based in Europe. You know, there's a bunch of ETPs for Algorand and XRP even and XLM and others that have been launched by 21 shares over on the Swiss stock exchange. I'm not including those. I'm only looking at 1933 Act ETFs based in America for the purpose of this coin review. And so, you know, that's a couple examples right there of projects that are going to need significant institutional adoption to soak up the 60% of the circulating supply that gets added between now and 2029. That might be a bag that you don't want to get caught holding, if you know what I mean. And so this is what we'll be watching going forward to see, is Ripple tightening up supply and kind of restricting how much XRP is coming and able to make it to the secondary markets and able to make it to the OTC desk where the ETFs can buy it. Because if the OTC desks get cleared out, then they're going to the public retail exchanges. And this is going to lead to significant price appreciation. Okay? I want to be very clear about that. Here's where this gets even better, especially for XRP, is that we haven't had any DeFi. That's changing right now. We have Flare, you have even Axelar, bridging us over to 60 plus blockchains. You have more markets. You have Doppler Finance. I got to meet the guys at Doppler at the Swell conference. And I told them, I said, guys, we need to see your faces. We need to get you out here. Don't be hiding from the XRP community. You're asking for our XRP. Let's see who you are. And I said, we also want to see where the yield's coming from, where, how you guys are generating this yield. You need to be transparent with us. And, they told me that they're dealing with regulations in Korea. Their trading partners want to stay private and anonymous and all this. And okay, but if I'm just giving you some friendly advice on how to make your project successful and how you can sell your product to the XRP family, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot better time and be much more successful selling to the XRP family if you show your face, if you can simply explain where the yield comes from. Because we're simple and we don't trust anybody. Okay, so if you want our XRP, I'm speaking for myself and for many of you guys in the community that have also echoed the same thoughts. Let's see your face. I understand that everybody has proprietary trading strategies. Sure. Simply explain where the yield's coming from in one sentence. That's my challenge to all these yield providers. And if you can't do that, good luck selling the XRP community, because we don't trust anybody. And we're simple folks for the most part. I'm not saying that we're not smart. No, we're very smart. And we do conduct serious due diligence. And so, all that to say, Doppler is just one of many providers like Flare. I went and met with Flare, went and met Hugo. And what gets exciting here is that they've already locked up 60 million FXRP. That's 60 million XRP that's already been locked up here. And Hugo says that Firelight, which is about to launch here this month, is going to 10x the current 60 million FXRP minted. If that plays out, the final 6 weeks of the year will see an explosion in minting activity. Great news for providers of pool collateral. Now, I've minted about 190 FXRP so that I can go dabble and dip my toe and see what I can do in the Flare ecosystem. And I probably will be allocating some of that to Firelight. But I'm also looking at other pools and other ways to add liquidity over in the Flare ecosystem and generate some returns. But guys, the flywheel has started. Now it expands. And it's 60 million XRP already locked up in Flare. You have about 60 million XRP that's already locked up in some of the other protocols like Doppler, More Markets, and some of the others there too. And then one ETF goes live. And day one, 100 million XRP gets locked up in that. So this is just the start. And just like Hugo was saying that we're going to 10x the amount of XRP that's locked up for Flare, we're going to 10x the amount of XRP that's locked up for ETFs. And we're going to 10x that number again, in my opinion, where we go from 100 million XRP backing the Canary ETF to a billion XRP in all of the ETFs to eventually 10 billion XRP locked up in just ETFs, not including Flare, not including Doppler, not including somebody else who's going to generate yield for your XRP. You're going to go lock up XRP with them and see what they can do. All of that locked up, XRP locked up on fuzzy, wudgy penguins and meme coins on the XRP ledger. Whether we like the memesters or not, I say God bless them. Let them go lock up XRP to go trade memes. Let them go lock up and burn XRP to go trade memes and fuzzy, wuzzy penguin. Love it. I love fuzzy, wuzzy penguin because it locks up more XRP. It makes the XRP in my wallet more scarce. And it builds demand for my XRP. Demand is building for our XRP through DeFi, through memes, through tokenization of real world assets and stablecoins on the XRP ledger, right? And through ETFs, amongst many other things as well too. I mean, we even had a company, what was that, out of China that was going to use the XRP ledger for logistics. I forget the name of that company, but that was a use case that was reserved for, VET token or even HBAR or some other tokens, right? That's where supply chain logistics was going to go to. And then out of the blue, we have a company out of China that says they're going to use the XRP ledger for logistics. It's like, okay. That XRP that's being locked up by some firm in China for logistics is XRP that can't be used for cross-border payments. Can't be used by Ripple in their Ripple payments network, which has already been moving tens of billions on a yearly basis. Now they've acquired a prime brokerage firm, Hidden Road, that settles up $3 trillion on a yearly basis. They acquired stablecoin company Rail, which was already doing, I think, 30% of all stablecoin B2B volume worldwide. And as Brad Garlinghouse said, we're going to capture, 14% of Swift? I want you to understand that the XRP that Ripple will use for Ripple payments in that network that's going to replace Swift, that's one pool of XRP, not including the ETFs, not including the DeFi, not including the fuzzy wuzzy penguins. This is what drives the real supply shock and drives real price action for XRP to the upside between now and just the end of the year, where I think that we're going to make a run and a stab at $10. I'm talking between now and the end of 2026. maybe it trickles into January, where we make a good attempt at breaking above 10 bucks. And you guys know where I stand. I think that we fall short because there's so many people that want to sell between 5 and 10 bucks. Not sell shaming. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's right for you, right? We got to get those people out of the way. And then we'll have enough juice and we'll have cleared the path to go above 10 bucks into 2026. And that's a clear trajectory that we're on just when I look at the ETFs, not including all utility. There is no way to chart utility. I see you guys comment that under my post. You are correct, which is why we should all be so excited about this opportunity, that the ETFs alone is enough to pump XRP to double digits, not including the rest of the utility that's going to come to the XRP ledger. Now, we have been live for about 45 minutes. I want to spend about 15 minutes doing rapid fire Q&A. So please hit us with your rapid fire comments and questions in the chat below, and I'm going to be happy to get on it. Sorry, end of 2025. Yeah, sorry, I might have misspoke. We're going to make a stab at 10 bucks before the end of this year, 2025, and then we're going to go to double digits in 2026. 10 to 20 bucks. That's my base case. Base case. Okay. Now let's go rapid fire Q&A. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. If you haven't already, please make sure that you have liked this stream. Help us out by sharing it out far and wide. And especially the video that I drop tomorrow morning, I think it's going to be a great one for you to share for new people, and even a great refresher for people that have been in the XRP community, where we're going to distinguish the XRP ledger versus proof of work and proof of stake. Proof of work doesn't work, and sometimes we call it proof of an explicitive that I won't repeat here on the public airwaves. Okay? Thank you for dropping some super chats here. Here we go. Jose, thank you, sir. Thank you for all you do. No, thank you, Jose. Appreciate you. Peter, thank you. XRP, extreme rich people. Let's go buy American crypto only. No tax on American crypto. Yes, my video tomorrow is titled XRP Tax-Free Ledger. Has nothing to do with capital gains tax or Trump potentially removing that. It has to do with no fees, or basically, it's so cheap you don't even. It doesn't even matter. But that's what we're talking about with a tax-free system, and I'm just. What inspired me to make this video was recent comments from David Schwartz explaining to TradFi guys who are so stuck in the mindset of, if I'm going to invest in this, I need to earn a dividend, or I need to have some sort of cash flow that comes back to me just by owning the token. And it's like, okay, TradFi bro, this is not a stock. You're not going to get a dividend. This is not proof of work. This is not proof of stake. And this is an advantage for the XRP ledger. And so that's what we're going to be breaking down in tomorrow's video. Mr. Lucky, thank you. What are the chances that after a number of those ETFs come out, that XRP will still be around $3? If that happens, is the system truly rigged? No, because you're going to see a steady climb, right? I'm not anticipating us to go to 20 or 30 bucks by the end of this year. By the end of this year, the rest of those ETFs will be live. I mean, over the next month, we're probably going to see the remaining 6 spot ETFs go live for XRP. Bitwise, Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, 21 Shares, Coin Shares, and Wisdom Tree. They're all going to go live. And I don't expect any more big pullbacks on those ones going live. I know some people are worried about that. I think that you got the buy the rumor, sell the news on this first one. I don't think that it's going to repeat on the ones going forward. And you could there's 2 possibilities here, either where we get staggered, going live dates based off the 20-day countdown expiring. Bitwise is set to go live next week on the 19th. Franklin Templeton and Grayscale are right after that. And so we could have staggered ETF launches through the end of the month, or the SEC can come out and just say all of them go live today. Either way, I don't expect us to get a sell the news event on those, because we already got the sell the news on this first one, and that's the broader space getting to digest that news. And I was warning about this coming up over the past week or so, really all year I've been saying that the rest of the crypto participants and even Wall Street doesn't get that XRP is about to get its ETFs and that the XRP ETFs are about to set records. So it puts the entire crypto space on notice that, oh crap, XRP finally has an ETF. And it puts Wall Street on notice that, oh crap, XRP actually has an ETF, and it just broke day one volume of any ETF that went live in 2025, including the 900 other ETFs. Wall Street gets smacked with the fact of how strong the XRP community is, how much demand there is for XRP. And even shout out to Solana. Shout out to Solana, because they had the number one record. And before that, it was actually the Rex Osprey ETF for XRP that went live in September. That was a 40 Act ETF, a little bit different than the ones that are going live right now. But that Rex Osprey ETF in September smashed the record for day one volume of any ETF of 2025. That's an XRP ETF. And then Solana came out, Bitwise Solana ETF, took that number one spot at about 57, 56 million. And then Canary Capital just came out and we busted that record with 58 million of volume day one. On top of the 245 million of inflows and 100 million XRP that's now parked backing that one ETF. One day, one ETF, 100 million XRP parked. It's not locked up because those people could sell. But I'm telling you that the psychology of the ETF investor is more long-term. And the psychology of the XRP community that's going to be investing using the ETFs is long-term. Buy XRP now, wait for $100. Buy XRP now, wait for $1,000. Buy XRP now, never sell. That's the mindset of most of the XRP family. And it's putting all of Wall Street on notice, and it's putting the broader crypto space on notice that this bull run is still being ran by XRP. Credit to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been holding well. Bitcoin dominance has been doing well. And if it wasn't for the ETFs, Bitcoin wouldn't have broke 100,000. Everybody needs to understand that. Without the ETFs, without Wall Street, Bitcoin was cooked. Straight up. Bitcoin had no chance of even probably breaking up to a new all-time high this cycle, let alone breaking above 100,000 without the ETFs. Because what we've seen on the centralized exchanges is nothing but outflows. The Bitcoin hodlers that were going to hold it forever and down with the banks, they're taking their cash to the bank now. And so the ETFs bailed out Bitcoin. Very important to understand that. Ajax, thanks for what you do. Wild to see people fear about lower prices and not opportunity. It's not what it's worth today, but it will be. And that's just it. You have so many new people coming in. $2 for them is a great entry. $2 for them is going to be like 20 cents for us. We got in early. We made that move. We don't have time to pat ourselves on the back anymore with that though, right? Now we're looking ahead. And even buying at $2, I still think is a tremendous opportunity when I have a base case of going to $20 next year. Only in crypto can you find people that are upset when you tell them that there's a 5 to 10x opportunity in front of them. They just might have to wait 12 months. And crypto crybabies throw a fit. You know, and so we try to soothe them. I mean, I don't know what else these guys want me to do. Warm up a little milky for them and go tuck them into bed and tell them it's going to be okay. You have a 5 to 10x in front of you. Grow up and have a little bit of gratefulness that this opportunity is in front of you. I said it in my Discord call earlier today. 5% gain in TradFi Wall Street world is like 100% in crypto. 10x at Wall Street is 200% in crypto world. Our expectations as investors in crypto has been completely distorted. Needs to be, brought back down to reality and grounded a little bit. And I understand that some people were misled into thinking that your 1,000 XRP was going to make you a millionaire this year because you were told that XRP was going to $1,000. What was the ISO date in July when people were running around saying that XRP was going to $22,000 per coin because of the ISO date back in July. Now, what do we got? Another ISO date in November. And I've been telling you since last year, forget about the ISO dates. It means nothing for price action. It means a whole lot for updating the financial system. But on those days, you will not see price action. It's not what this is about. It's updating the back end of the banking system. And I got to tell you guys, right now, a lot of boring things are being done that doesn't equate to price action today, but will lead to monumental gains down the road. It's just people have no patience. Everybody wants click, swipe, instant gratification. I invest $1,000 and I become a millionaire tomorrow. Our society needed this delayed cycle top. That's why we're in an extended cycle and why the market makers smacked us up instead of giving us a traditional alt season where Bitcoin topped out. We rotated to Ethereum. Yay, Ethereum goes to 10,000. We're all rich. Now we get to rotate to smaller altcoins and we're all going to make 5 and 10x on our altcoins. And yay, we all gather around. We all sing Kumbaya. We all make money. If you haven't figured it out by now, the market makers took that sentiment and they smacked you with the harsh reality that the inflows aren't there. The inflows are not there yet. They delayed the regulations and the Clarity Act is not getting passed till the end of this year. Clarity Act was supposed to pass earlier this year. The SEC versus Ripple lawsuit was supposed to end earlier this year, last year, 4 years ago. It never should have been filed, for crying out loud. The one thing that we've gotten wrong, myself included, is timeline. But does that mean that we won't eventually be right about going to these prices? Absolutely not. We will be proven right about going to some of these prices. I'm not talking about $10,000 per XRP. Okay. I'm talking about XRP establishing a floor price in double digits. And this is why I put out the tweet last night saying that over the next 12 months, everything changes for XRP. We go to a reality and we set a floor price. We're never coming back down to these low levels, which is why historically speaking, we will look back on this moment and the sell the news pullback after the XRP ETF went live is going to be one of the best buying opportunities for the asset, just like it was for Bitcoin, just like it was for Ethereum, and just like it's going to turn out to be for Litecoin, HBAR, and Solana. And I don't even hold Litecoin or Solana, but I still see what's going to happen for them. This all is a game of inflows. And without the institutions coming in, we're recycling the same money around. One of the largest market makers, one of the market makers that's smacking us up, Wintermute, who works with Binance and everything that they've been doing, which to say looks a little bit shady is an understatement of biblical proportions, but that's what we're up against. And even Wintermute, the market maker, is saying that there's no new money coming in. It's all the same money circulating around and being recycled. The only new money coming in, for the most part, has been through the ETFs. And I broke this down for you guys, where Bitcoin ETF saw 60 billion of inflows since inception. And on the centralized exchanges, it's been nothing but outflows. So the old money in Bitcoin has been using that new money through the ETFs as exit liquidity. And because our economic situation is so desperate and it's so poor, it's forcing more and more people to be ones that cash out. There's people in the XRP community that are going to end up selling at $7 and $8, not because they want to, because they have to. There's people that are selling XRP right now because they have to, not because they want to. So that's just something that we have to understand. And it allows us to ground our expectations. And we can still be really bullish and excited and love life. There's more to life than, our coin's not doing good today or this month or the last few months. Zoom out. The coin was 50 cents last year. It's $2 right now. Is it lower than where we'd like to see it? Absolutely. Is it still on its way to those higher prices? Absolutely. The only question is, do you have enough exposure? Do you have enough XRP? Let's get back here to our super chats from Messiah. 7 ETFs go live this year, and they all need to be seeded. Franklin Templeton is going to say, hold my beer, Canary. Canary is one of the smallest issuers out of all these ETF issuers. And so they came and put a, nice little splash that Canary made. But this process is just getting started. Great point, Messiah. Thank you. BlackRock still needs to show up as well. The Versatile. Have you been seeing about oil on Twitter? That reverse carry trade is starting to look very much real. It's crazy if Jake theory comes true. Thoughts? Yeah, so, there's a lot to dissect there in that theory and how those dominoes could fall. I don't see oil spiking to levels that are really going to cause that, just because President Trump is doing a lot to lower prices. I know that we're frustrated because he keeps on saying that everything's lower prices. Eggs are lower, gas is lower, everything's lower. And relatively speaking, they have come down, but we still are. I mean, we're still paying $4 a gallon up where I live. I paid $4.50 for diesel last month. So that's my own fault for living in a state that has no common sense. But you know what I'm saying? I get where people are frustrated, but as far as those dominoes falling, I don't see it playing out exactly like Jake has laid out, right? Even if some of those dominoes fall, where oil does spike, the reverse carry trade starts to unwind. The big part of that theory that takes XRP to big numbers is XRP almost exclusively being used to settle up the stock market and the derivatives. That's one part of that theory that I don't see playing out, where XRP gets all of it, or even that big of a portion of it, really. Now, at Ripple Swell Conference, Adina Friedman from NASDAQ was there, and they talked about how they are working with the DTCC and how they are updating the stock market. But if that were to play out, in a portion or a good chunk, or even all of the stock market was going to settle on the XRP ledger, then sure, we could talk about having some real fun. I just don't see that happening. I can see, oil potentially spiking if war pops off again. Sure. I see that, Japan has raised rates and the bond market over there is at the highest rate in decades. And so that's causing the carry trade to unwind. But there's a bigger global margin call that's taking place. And so I can see some of those dominoes dropping and leading to a big crash in the market. I think the big what if is, are we actually going to see XRP used to settle the back end of the stock market? That's the part where I haven't seen evidence that leads me to believe that. Now, is the XRP ledger ready? Yes, absolutely. Would the XRP ledger be one of the best options? I do believe so. They're moving very slow. And so we'll see how that plays out. But in that environment too, I should mention that I think even if some of those dominoes do drop, XRP is going to drop in price too. Temporarily. Like it would recover and bounce back. But in that event, and I've just been trying to note to folks that the Japan reverse carry trade is just one part of the global margin call. There is a global margin call underway. The Japan carry trade is part of it. It's part of a bigger problem, though, which is a bunch of debt that was issued at 1% and 2% or next to nothing. In some cases in Japan, negative real rates. And so it all has to be adjusted. And so some of the conversation that we've had is Trump and Secretary Bessent willing to sacrifice the stock market to save bonds? What does that mean? It means that you cause so much panic, so much destruction in the stock market that you get people to flee to bonds. That process is already underway. And I think that part of the solution that they're conducting right now is causing a little bit of fear in our stock market. And obviously tariffs have done that. War has done that. There's been many things that have done that. But then the other part is the solution of stable coins. So you have a combination there of basically cause the stock market to wake up and say, okay, what's the real value of these stocks? One of the most overvalued stock markets, actually the most overvalued stock market that we've ever had. And you get folks to take profit out there and then move into money market funds, which is why we have $7 trillion in liquidity sitting idle, waiting to be deployed. And then Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, is talking about the 2 to 3 trillion in stablecoin demand that is ready now that we've passed the Genius Act. So they have to figure out our debt situation while at the same time shoring up the US dollar and the respect that's being lost in the US dollar. And so it's a combination of driving investors out of the stock market back into bonds. That's been happening. It's rolling out the Genius Act and stablecoin legislation. And then I think the final piece of that is giving us full clarity, which will open up institutions to fully expand all of their offerings and all of their plans for crypto, where that 2 to 3 trillion in stablecoin demand opens up into 10 to 30 trillion in demand for tokenized real world assets, where stablecoins denominated in US dollar will most likely be the collateral for those tokenized real world assets. So there's a lot to it. But we're watching that. And it's important to know this is why we say cash is king and keeping some liquidity around, because if those dominoes do fall, you're going to have some of the best buying opportunities on these assets. Absolutely. Tom, thanks for all your research, brother. Can you give your thoughts on Flare this run and continuing to 2030 if real adoption keeps coming? Yeah, for Flare, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I have some sell orders below 10 cents just because I think that you're going to have a sell wall of people that'll, everybody will be in profit once Flare goes back above like 5-6 cents. When Flare launched, it was at 9 cents. I don't include the IOUs that were trading on Bitrue before Flare went live on mainnet. That wasn't a real market. That was an artificial IOU for Flare on one exchange. Wasn't a real market. So when you see the IOUs for Flare that were on Bitrue at $1 or $2, forget about it. It's meaningless. You need to look at Flare from January 2023 going on, and it launched at 9 cents and then immediately went down to like a penny. And so, just to be honest with you guys, I do have some sell orders for Flare right below 10 cents. And I think that the bullish scenario for Flare is 10 to 20 cents in the next year. As far as over the next few years, the final airdrop takes place in January of next year. So after that, the only inflation comes from Flare minting new tokens that will be distributed through the rewards and staking and delegators. So we'll get to see kind of how that tokenomics plays out. I don't have any ETFs that are ready to go for Flare. There's no digital asset treasury companies for Flare, but just the fact that Flare is so focused on servicing the XRP community and bringing utility and unlocking that dormant capital, a value of 150 billion of XRP market cap that's not being deployed in DeFi. They know how big of an opportunity that is. They're focusing on that. And so just the fact that they're riding on XRP's coattails, servicing the XRP community, that bodes well for Flare. But I still think that you have big sell pressure at 10 cents, and it would be lucky to break above 10 cents this cycle. I think it would be lucky to break above 20 cents over the next 12 months. But I would love to be wrong about that. I would love to be wrong about that. Okay? We'll be watching it very closely, though. Adam, 2-spot. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Zach, you ever think of doing a Ripple partnership vid, Wormhole, Flare, etc.? I kind of want to invest a good bag in Wormhole for the future. Thoughts? Yeah, I haven't done a deep dive on Wormhole. I'm not overly excited about some of these bridges because it's a pretty competitive space, right? You have Wormhole, you have Axelar. There's been a couple others as well too. And so I own Axelar. I don't own Wormhole. Maybe I should get a little bit of exposure there. I thought that I saw that they just had a big issue or a hack or an exploit that took place over there. I shouldn't say that offhand without knowing that, but Wormhole, what's the ticker on Wormhole? What is it? WRM? I'll have to take a look at that. A lot of projects want to leverage saying that they're a Ripple partner, and that makes sense, but like I said, I'm going to be following up on all of these projects over the next 12 months, and there's just no more excuses. If you can't get real institutional adoption after we have regulations passed, Clarity Act, or whatever the market structure bill is, if you can't get institutional adoption, I don't want to hold your project. Most likely, unless you're a meme coin. If it's a meme coin, that's a retail project. That's a retail pump and dump. Play your cards and take your money and run. But when it comes to these real utility projects, there's no more excuses anymore. So we'll be following up on that. Crypto Cowboy, good to see you, sir. Zach, good sir. By any chance, do you know what chart does Caleb and Brown use for trades? Well, that's a good question. The answer is that they are sourcing liquidity from dozens, I believe, of different exchanges, market makers, etc., OTC desks. So there is no chart to reference for Caleb and Brown. For Caleb and Brown, I know that they use Binance. So you'd probably have your best success just using the Binance chart to see what Caleb and Brown is using. I know I talked to Jim during the 1010 liquidation event on how low were you able to fill orders. And I know that he mentioned that basically the $1.25 level well, Binance went down to like 77 cents real quick, but $1.25 was really where it landed at very quickly. And so unless you had limit orders sitting on the books at Caleb and Brown or iTrust Capital or any of these other platforms, you weren't getting orders filled under $2 for the most part. There's like a few people that were able to. But if you were just trying to hit market buy under $2, they weren't going through. So that's where the liquidity ran out. The order book ran thin. We bottomed out and then quickly recovered back up to $2.30 that same day. So I would just use the Binance chart for referencing and seeing where Caleb and Brown's going to be at. That's probably going to be your best bet. Tom, respect from one diesel dog to another. I appreciate that, sir. The nice thing about my truck is I don't have to work it anymore. The nice thing about it is I don't have to work it anymore, but if I do need to haul something, I can haul whatever I want, nice and comfortable. Yeah, I really do love my truck. Really do love it. Good Ford F-250. 1970 legend. But I tell you what, and I found out yesterday too that our Gemini MasterCard is not accepted at Costco. So yesterday I went to Costco with the family. It's part of the reason why I didn't get out an update yesterday is I had a couple one-on-one sessions in the morning. And then we went out with the family to Costco to load up. My wife is transitioning into her nesting phase of pregnancy where we're getting the house clean and getting everything organized and nice big Costco run to make sure we're loaded up and prepped up. And I went to go use my Gemini card. I was so excited, I'm going to earn 2% back on groceries. Going to swipe that Gemini card at Costco. And they said, sorry, sir, we don't accept MasterCard here. So that is a bummer when it comes to your Gemini XRP card. Yeah, in regards to, filling up the diesel truck, I spend $100 every time I fill up my truck. But at least I'm getting 4% back in XRP using my Gemini card. So that's been helpful. Yep. Sunday morning live there in Australia for you, Stu. That's right, brother. That's right. We wanted to wake up you Aussies over there and get you in the chat. Okay, get your coffee. Zach, you need the Uphold card? Yeah, I'm going to be looking at that. I'm going to be looking. I mean, you guys know that maybe Uphold's listening, so I don't want to be mean, but I'm not very happy with, I'm not trading on Uphold anymore. I'm very happy with other things that Uphold does. Like, I'm very excited to start earning 5% on my RLUSD. I'm going to look at getting the Uphold card as well, too. I understand that that's a debit card. And that's good because I don't need another credit card. I already got enough credit cards. But I am going to look at getting that Uphold card. But this Gemini card has me covered on just about everything. Coinbase has a card too. Yeah, everybody's rolling out the card. And by the way, guys, Frankie says, Zach, my Gemini card is working well for me. That's good. I'm so happy with this because this is going to allow retail, folks that don't have any extra money to just spend and swipe their card for groceries, gas, and the essentials for life, and then passively stack XRP and other crypto. I love this. This is so important because we're talking about folks that, I posted a video earlier this week, XRP buying opportunity. And that was the day that the ETF went live, and I knew that we were going to have a pullback. And I wanted to remind everybody, this was to be expected. This is a buying opportunity. But a bunch of people comment, buying opportunity with what money? And I get it, man. Inflation's, they're lying. They're lying about inflation. You know this. We all know this. It's not pretty out there. People are losing jobs. It's ugly. I get it. We're tapped out. You have no money. But you can still stack your crypto just by swiping for your groceries, your gas, and your essentials. Love that. Love that. And I mean, specifically for accessibility for the poor and middle class that are just looking to passively get into crypto, build a dollar cost average, or, spending money that you already would be. I love this so much. Now you need to be responsible with your credit card. Right? I just had to pay mine off yesterday or last week, right? So I ran that thing up, paid it off completely, not going to pay any interest, and earning my XRP in return. That's the right way to do it. So you got to be responsible, but I love this for the average person who has no extra funds, but you can start to stack passively. Absolutely love it. So important. And that's more crypto that just gets stored and stacked away, all leading to the supply shock. Legend comes in. Good to see you, brother. Did I get you to dip your toe back into Zebeki? Keep up the good work. Where is our Zebeki trading at? I love that people are running with that name now. I love that. I love it. Zebeki. We coined it. People are rolling with it. Okay, so it's back down to 0.003. Okay. So it looks like it's bottoming out here, forming good support. Looks like actually a good time to get an entry on Zebeki. Honestly. I still think that this thing's going to make another shot at 1 penny. Did a full 4.236 extension. So I wonder if you got in right now on Zebeki and just rode it back up to where it went to, you'd be up 136%. That's interesting. I may have to look at getting back in on Zebeki. That's looking good. And I mean, obviously, if it goes up to my 1 cent target, that'd be a 237% opportunity. It's nothing to complain about. Yeah, I'll be taking a look at that. I saw with Uphold, Zebek and Uphold are still partnered up. They're putting their brand on, they did a hockey rink. Uphold did at least. And then I think they're doing a basketball jersey for the Atlanta Hawks. I saw they were doing something else in Houston, I thought. So it's been interesting to watch Zebek because I really didn't know. I mean, you guys saw, if you watched my deep dive and my first videos on Zebek, I said, hey guys, this is what they're trying to build out. There's some things that I don't really like, a couple red flags here and there. We're still going to trade it and make money. And our community made millions on Zebek. It was so much fun. And we're still going to make a lot more on this thing if it does run again. And if they actually fill out their goals and the utility that they're trying to bring, we're going to make a lot of money on Zebek. Yeah. So I've been very happy. I've been very happy with what I've seen from Zebek since I got into it, since I sold it off. Watching the price action, still holding pretty well. Very impressed. Very impressed. I'll let you know, Legend. I'll let you know when I get back in. You guys will be the first to know. Bishop Wingnut. How is XRP getting in the reserve? Trump tweeted this in March. It will happen. Just wondering how. Well, there's a couple different ways. Obviously, it can be seized, and that would be one way for the government to acquire it. Criminals don't really use XRP, though. They use Bitcoin, Monero, and other coins like that. Litecoin, Ethereum. So the criminals don't really use XRP, which is why our government doesn't hold that much XRP right now in those seized funds. But, that's one way. The other thing that they could do is a partnership with Ripple. I talked about the potential for Ripple to actually gift some XRP to the government. Some people didn't like that idea. They said that our government should pay fair price. I agree. My thinking was it's just a way to grease the rails and get some things cooking. It's a way for Ripple to provide their services to our Treasury Department, which I think, if it's not already being done, should be done. Just as an American, I'm speaking on behalf of, as an American that's concerned about what's going on at our Treasury, what's happening with our dollar. If you issue XRP-backed bonds, that gets interesting. If you start to move some of the Treasury systems onto the XRP ledger, that would solve some problems. And even if it's not XRP, it should be on DLT. And that could be another blockchain. Doesn't have to be XRP, but yeah, there's many different ways that could be done. I'm a big fan of the reserves, even Bitcoin. I like the fact that our government, I am absolutely unequivocally against selling our gold, though, to go buy crypto. 100% against it. Till the day I die, I will speak out against that. I'm not in favor of us selling gold to buy XRP. I'm not in favor of us selling gold to buy Bitcoin or anything else. And I'm not in favor of us selling even our Bitcoin or any of our assets until we audit and really determine all of our debt and outstanding liabilities. Was that debt racked up fraudulently? Is it legitimate? Who do we owe what to? I want us to figure that out before we start selling off any of our assets. And I'm completely against us selling off our gold. Completely against it. We need to audit our reserves of gold. I have already started the process. That was the reasoning for the reserve. One of them. One of the reasonings for the reserve was to get an audit and understand what we actually held. But then we need an audit of our debt and who we actually owe what to. Some of that's going to be written off, in my opinion. President Trump's going to say, nope, this was racked up with fraud. The American citizens didn't sign on to this. We're not paying this debt. I do think that that's part of it. So part of the paying off the debt comes from writing off portions of it and then acquiring these assets, writing them up, and then also monetizing the assets that we already have. And this has come about from the sovereign wealth fund that has been mentioned. This is coming about from the equity positions that our administration is taking in these public companies, Intel and others. So it's a matter of writing off some of the debts, acquiring assets that will appreciate, and then taking equity stakes in some of these companies, and then monetizing assets that have not been monetized by our government up until now. And trust me, I have plenty of concerns about this. I have concerns about our government taking positions in public companies. I don't like it. I have concerns about us monetizing our resources and allowing private equity vultures. And I'm not even talking about like private equity vultures from outside of our country. That's a threat. I'm talking about private equity vultures that are still in our country too. I mean, I won't say the name, but guys that are acquiring large swaths of great American farmland, that's a concern. Right? So in doing these things, I think that we need to bring in industry experts. It needs to be thoroughly ran through. And at the end of the day, it needs to be signed off by Congress. It can't be executive order by President Trump. It needs to be signed off by Congress, who controls the purse. But President Trump is starting this process off and moving the needle. But we still have 36, 37, we've lost track, almost 40 trillion in debt, not accounting for our unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicare. I want to get to the rest of our super chats though, so let's keep it rocking. No guns, just knife. Zach, Godspeed to you and yours. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you very much. What are your thoughts on quant for next year? Well, let me go to my spreadsheet because I already took a look at quant. Let's see on our spreadsheet here. We have quant hitting an all-time high of $428. No ETFs, no digital asset treasury companies. For institutional adoption, I put weak, mostly proof of concepts. For tokenomics, I put great. And quant is the only project that I've reviewed so far that I actually put great in the tokenomics. Great. The tokenomics on quant, fantastic. My low target is $225. My high target is $330. In the comments, I put lack of momentum and use of token. So that's where I'm at with quant and many other projects as well too. But if you guys want to see my full spreadsheet, and I've reviewed 10 coins so far, and people are sending me additional coins that I'm going to be reviewing as well. And so if you want access to that, sign up through Patreon to get into our Discord and I'll send it over to you. Yep. Blue Rock says run 3,000 through your Gemini credit card and earn an additional $200 in crypto. I received 83 XRP plus the percentage back on the purchases. Yeah, I did see that Gemini said it could take up to 8 weeks for you to receive that $200 in crypto. I think that we really hammered Gemini. I don't think that they were expecting us to show out like the XRP army does. We set records for ETFs. You want to give us a credit card where we can earn XRP back. And actually, this came out in the Gemini Q3 earnings report, where they reported 100,000 plus new credit cards issued in Q3, I believe is what they said. I remember the number was over 100,000. Many of those was XRP Army. Battle of the Bands. Zach, if Tether doesn't pass clarity, will Bitcoin crash? Tether is going to pass the Genius Act because they've been given a 3-year grace period to come into compliance. So I do think that Tether is going to be fine. I no longer believe that Tether is going to cause our market to implode like I used to. So Tether, I still think is good. Football, and in fact, let me just add one more point. Right now, I am looking for a digital asset treasury company. Don't want to say any names, but maybe MS might be the one that blows up. I'm looking for a digital asset treasury company that's over leveraged and has created a Ponzi scheme to blow up. And I'm looking for that to be one of the catalysts that really blows up our market this time around. So, not going to say any names, but you guys know who we are watching very closely. Football sin corruption. What's going to happen when XRP is a higher price for the credit card to give you 4% back in XRP? You're going to be making a lot of money, a lot of XRP back, right? Same deal. It's just that XRP is going to be worth more. So yeah, that's going to be great to see. That's going to be great to see. And they might have to adjust it. These guys might not be able to keep up with that demand. So that's why, while these platforms are offering these incentives and these deals are so good and they're sweetening them. Uphold is doing 6% back on their card right now, plus an additional 4% back if you do a direct deposit. Plus, I think they're doing an initial 1% on Zebeki if you do direct deposit. Take advantage of it while it's here, before it goes away. And then when it goes away, switch to a different platform. And this is what I've been saying, guys. He who has the gold makes the rules. We have the gold. We have the XRP. So whether it's DeFi, credit cards, exchanges, brokerages, centralized yield platforms, we get to say, I like that deal. I like this service. Thank you very much. Or we get to say, that doesn't look like too good of a deal. I'm going to pass that up. I can't tell where you're generating the yield from. I'm not going to give you my XRP. You are lying to me. I'm not going to give you my XRP. Everything in between. We have the gold. We get to make the rules. And I've been encouraging our community to push back. My mentor, Dan Pena, says, you don't ask, you don't get. So we got to push. And finally, you're starting to see all these providers are coming to service the XRP community. Zach, tune into Maximus Crypto to learn about quant. Just ask your favorite AI which institutions are using the quant token. Now you can ask Grok which institutions are using quant, and they might have a list of companies that have partnered up with quant for proof of concepts. There's a big difference between proof of concepts and actual use of the token. So don't let people lie, whether it be the project or an influencer, lie about having institutional adoption when they don't have use of the token. They're consulting, they're piloting, they're in a proof of concept that does not include their token. Or even if they are testing and trialing with their token, it's a very limited use of that token. We want to see ETFs, digital asset treasuries, and real institutional adoption. And the best example is XRP and Ripple, where you can actually see that tens of billions of settlement are taking place using Ripple's on-demand liquidity product. That's happening. That's real use of the token. Versus Quant has been talking about doing some things. They've been showing us that they're in the room doing proof of concepts and pilots. The rubber is not meeting the road when it comes to Quant. And I encourage you guys to ask those same questions of every project that you're considering investing in. Just because two projects are friendly and they do a photo op does not mean that that bank is going to use their coin. And guys, the reason why I can say this is because I've applied this same pressure and asked these same hard questions of XRP. Because we've been up against all these XRP haters and fudsters who have been saying, oh yeah, they're partnered up with Ripple, but they're not using XRP. And that forced us to dig in. Okay, Ripple, you're partnered up with this bank, but are they actually using XRP? No, they're not. They're using traditional fiat rails. Okay, that's good. Now we know. But then we've looked through the rest of the list and you can actually track, okay, this company's partnered up with Ripple. They're using Ripple payments. And they're specifically using on-demand liquidity, which is the Ripple payment product, which settles up with XRP. It's very important to be able to track that and to be able to follow up with that. Now, I'm bullish on Quant. It's like many of these projects, we need to see more institutional adoption. And I know a lot of people say they're working quietly. Yeah. Sounds like me telling my mom I'm working on my homework. And meanwhile, I was actually playing Xbox. That's what that reminds me of. Yeah, Mom, I'm just quietly working in my room. Yeah, I'm doing my homework. Meanwhile, I'm 360 quick scopes on Modern Warfare 2, just dominating. Yeah. But we'll follow up. I mean, what's Quant at right now? It's at $100 last time I checked. And I think it's probably come down some. Where's it at? Quant, $83. Yeah. So, I mean, what were my low targets on Quant? 225 to 330. So even though I'm not overly excited on Quant, if it does go up into that, we have 150% profit up to 220. If it goes to $300, you have a 261% opportunity. Yeah, and my high side target was 330. And the reason, I think it'll fall short of its previous all-time high, zooming all the way out here, right? Just because you have so many bag holders that have been holding Quant for so long, waiting to get an opportunity to take profit. So I think that's why it stopped here at, it only went to 171 after the election. So it fell short of $200. So Quant, and by the way, just because a coin doesn't have ETFs filed for it now, doesn't mean that we're not going to get some ETFs going live for it by the end of this year or into 2026. We will. I expect to see ETFs for Quant. But the longer those are delayed, the lower our price targets are going to sit right now, right? So that's where I'm at. I like to just ground us and explain my reasoning in full context for why I'm not like on the edge of my seat for Quant, even though I still think that you have a great investment opportunity in front of you. Price news for next week when all of the XRP ETFs go live. Well, they're staggered. Bitwise will be live November 19th. Franklin Templeton and Grayscale will be live right after that. I think in the next couple of days after that. So by the end of this month, we should have most of them going live. I think that you've seen the worst of it. I'm looking, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, that I'm watching for the Bitcoin CME gap to fill. That's down at 92,000. So the CME gap sits right here because on Tuesday, April 22nd, Bitcoin closed off the day at 91,600 about, and then it opened up the next day at 93.8. So that creates a CME gap, same CME gap that I had right here in my purple box. And so we went and filled that, and then we've continued to bleed out. And now we're watching to see if this CME gap is going to fill down here at 92,000. In my opinion, it eventually will. Doesn't mean that we're going to go fill it right now, but we could go up, and Bitcoin could make one more run up to 120,000. It could even go set a new all-time high, but then eventually it will come back down and fill this gap, in my opinion. It's just a matter of whether or not we're going to do that right now. But the CME market closed off here at 94.4, and currently Bitcoin is sitting at 95.6. And we did go down to 94.1 on Friday, right? So we're just waiting to see if this CME gap is going to fill at 92,000 or if the bottom has already been set at about 94,000. But all of that to answer your question by saying that we've probably seen the worst of it for XRP, or at least we're very close. I think that $2 XRP will hold. I think that you'll see a lot of people front run $2.07. And so with that, you're pretty close to the bottom, right? Did you see the Bitcoin Max request for a stall on the XRP ETF? I did. And it goes to show you what the tribalism that we're up against and how ridiculous this crypto space is. I mean, it's just ridiculous that we've been up against our own people. It really be your own people that attack you and hold you back. It's ridiculous. Here we are rooting for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Shoot, I even root for the memesters, even though I think that they've been very toxic and bad for our space. but I still root for them to have fun. And my hope is that the memes and the NFTs at least onboards new people to crypto. So with that being said, guys, I am going to wrap up this live session here. Tomorrow morning, I will be dropping a fresh update. Make sure you guys check that out. That'll be dropping at 9 a.m. Eastern. Be a great video explaining the XRP ledger versus proof of work, proof of stake. Great video for you to share for new people that are trying to learn and compare XRP to other cryptos. Great refresher, even for those of you guys that have been in XRP for quite some time. So that video will drop at 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. If you want to check out the Discord weekly call that we had this morning, you can sign up through Patreon to get access to Discord. And we have all of our weekly calls are saved and stashed away in the Discord for you guys to view. You can get my full coin review playlist and suggest other coins that you want me to take a look at. Trying to get through these rather quickly because I do feel like we're in the final innings of this bull run cycle. And if we're going to have an alt season, it needs to come now or never. And so trying to get through all the rest of these coins and give my targets, not because I'm going to give anybody financial advice or tell you what to do, just because I like to give you my opinion on these projects and where I see them potentially going. If you want to book a one-on-one call with me too, we have that available at my website, zachrector.com. Just go to the top tabs and you'll see book a one-on-one. It'll be available for you guys right there. You sign up and pick a time on Calendly. And our schedule is going to fill up very quickly over the next couple months as this market heats back up. Then a bunch of people want to come in, and it's just like how the markets work. Once they start moving back up, everybody wants to buy and get back into the market. Same thing happens with my calendar and the one-on-one sessions that we've been having. And we've been having some really effective one-on-one sessions where I can really open up and be honest with folks who are asking me about different platforms, exchanges, platforms. Hey, what do you think about this? And when we go off the record, it allows me to really share my full opinion, unfiltered, uncensored, and we don't have to hold back at all. So those have been really effective, and I always do have a good time doing those. Stay tuned. We're going to be announcing the sale that we're going to be running on the XRP family merch. If you want to get your XRP family merch delivered by Christmas, get those orders in now. We're going to have some new collections that will be dropping between now and the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. New XRP ledger designs, new hats. We're going to work on trying to get beanies out too for the winter. And so stay tuned for that. We're going to tell everybody, if you want to get your order delivered to you by Christmas, if you're overseas, you're going to need to get your order in by December 1st. And then if you're in the United States, we want you to get your order in by December 5th. And we're doing that just so that we can be safe and make sure that your order gets to you by the time you're celebrating Christmas, okay? So stay tuned for that. All of our other community resources are available at zachrector.com. Really appreciate your support. And on the way out, if you haven't already, please make sure that you like this video. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell. And we will see you guys tomorrow in the next one, okay? Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you.